mobile delegates. I'm Ashley Esqueda, and it's time for your Mobile Nations Monday Brief, where I bring you what happened this past week on Crackberry, the iPhone blog, Android Central, Windows Phone Central, and Pre-Central. It's been a great week in mobile, so let's see what happened. First off, I have to give some love to the Windows Phone Nation because this week HTC held their London event and they did not disappoint. They announced two new Mango devices that'll be released sometime in October, the Titan and the Radar. So what's the deal with these phones? Well, the Titan is a huge device. It is amazing. It's got a 4.7-inch screen, 1.5 gigahertz processor, and it's only 9.9 millimeters thick, making it one of those delightful devices that you definitely want to get your hands on. As for the Radar, it's a mid-range device, but it's no slouch either. It's got a 3.8-inch screen and a 1 gigahertz processor. You'll be able to find these phones in the EU in October. No word yet on a US release date, but if I know HTC, I think they're going to bring those devices here to the States. HTC, especially with the Titan, is promising an experience and a device like you've never held in your hand before. In a super duper break exclusive, all of our friends over at the iPhone blog put out a report that T-Mobile will be getting the iPhone 5 sometime in October when we finally figure out the release date. Now, this wouldn't be too big of a deal because we expected to see the iPhone 5 across all four carriers, but here's the catch. So AT&T runs on GSM and HSPA bands, and Verizon and Sprint run on CDMA, while T-Mobile's phones run on GSM and AWS bands, meaning that the iPhone 5 would have to squeeze all of those antennae into one device. So will Apple pull it off? Nobody quite knows, and we won't find out until the official event, hopefully sometime this month. As a fellow Android user, I understand the Android Nation's frustration as we've waited and waited for Samsung to announce the release date of the Galaxy S2. Well, that day has finally come, at least for a couple of carriers. Sprint, AT&T, and T-Mobile all had variants of the Galaxy S2 on display at Samsung's New York City announcement event. And if you're wondering what Galaxy S2 is right for you, Phil and the gang over at Android Central have put together a delightful article that you can read that will tell you the differences between each one of the different variants of the Galaxy S2. As for my beloved Evo 3D, well, Evo 3D, it's been real, but I'm dumping you for somebody thinner and prettier and has a nicer set of cameras. I'm shallow. In this week's Oh Snap news, Samsung dealt the Pre-Central community a pretty heavy blow when their CEO said that they would never buy or license WebOS, which sort of blunt force traumatized all those rumors surrounding Samsung possibly being interested in licensing WebOS and making devices with it. He went on to say that he didn't think it was right that people were buying and licensing ready-made OSs, and if you're wondering why Samsung would stick with Bada, well, we have no idea. I don't know either. I just think it's ridiculous. But if you want to help save WebOS, you can join the WebOS OS campaign, which is happening on Pre-Central, and you can tweet with the hashtag WebOSOS. The Crackberry Nation is experiencing a little bit of Veruca Salt in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory syndrome, as there is no sign of the BlackBerry Bold 9900 on AT&T thus far.
Don't care how, I want it now.
So Crackberry, in the grand tradition of the internet, decided they are going to start a petition where you can sign it in the comments and tell them that you want the 9900 on AT&T right this second. They're saying, well, I'm sorry AT&T, but later this year isn't quite good enough. And the fact that all three other major carriers here in the US already have the 9900, well, that sucks, Big Blue. Adding to that, I know AT&T that you're busy being bitch slapped by the FTC and the Department of Justice with that whole T-Mobile merger thing, but you know, Crackberry's just trying to help you out. It's just one less thing on your plate, so bring us the Bold 9900 or else. Kevin, Phil, Derek, Dan, and Renee all got together this last week for the Mobile Nations podcast, where they didn't only discuss this last week, but the week before that because there wasn't one. And once you're done listening to the Mobile Nations podcast at mobilenations.com, you can go to mobilenations.com/shows and check out all of the other podcasts we have for your entertainment. Well, that's it for your Mobile Nations Monday Brief. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/mobilenations, and you can find me on Twitter at Ashley Esqueda. Nations, you have been briefed.